The night was electric. The stage lights reflected on Daniel's small frame as he walked nervously across the stage. The crowd quieted down. You could hear the faint hum of the air conditioning in the auditorium. It was that quiet. Judges leaned forward, curious. Who was this boy with messy hair, worn-out sneakers, and a voice so soft you'd think it might disappear into the silence? But Daniel's eyes said something else. They were filled with fire. They were filled with dreams. Growing up in Manila was never easy for Daniel. His father worked long hours driving a tricycle, and his mother sold snacks in the streets. They lived in a small, cramped house where music became their escape. Every night, Daniel would sit by the small window of their home, listening to the old radio his father had repaired years ago. It was through that radio that he first heard the song that would later make the world cry. It was a ballad, a song about love, loss, and hope. A song that felt like it was written just for him. Daniel never took singing lessons. He learned to sing by mimicking the voices on the radio. But what made him different wasn't just his technique, it was his emotion. He sang like someone who had lived 1,000 lives. When the local talent search announced they were holding open auditions, Daniel didn't hesitate. He told his parents he wanted to sing. At first, they were worried. They couldn't afford fancy clothes or a ride to the audition. But Daniel's determination melted their hesitation. His father handed him a few crumpled bills, and his mother whispered in his ear, "Make them feel your heart." As Daniel stood on that massive stage, facing hundreds of strangers and a panel of judges known for their harsh criticism, his hands shook. The host asked him his name and age. He replied softly, "My name is Daniel. I'm 13 years old." A murmur spread through the audience. He was so young, so innocent. Could he really handle a performance of this scale? But then the music began. A single piano note echoed through the hall. Daniel closed his eyes. The world disappeared, and he began to sing. From the very first note, something magical happened. His voice, gentle yet powerful, filled the air with emotion so raw it felt like time itself had stopped. Cheers began to form in the eyes of people in the front row. One of the judges put her hand to her chest, visibly moved. Daniel wasn't just singing lyrics. He was telling his story. A story of a boy who grew up with nothing but dared to dream of everything. As the song continued, his voice grew stronger, richer, deeper. The entire room leaned in, hanging on to every word. Even the cameraman forgot to move for a second. The producers backstage stared at the monitor, stunned. This wasn't just another performance. This was a moment, a once-in-a-lifetime moment that people would talk about for years to come. Halfway through the song, Daniel hit a note so high and pure that the crowd collectively gasped. And that was when the first tear rolled down the face of one of the judges. Then another, and another. By the end of the song, the entire auditorium was on its feet. People were clapping, crying, shouting his name. The judges stood up, giving him a standing ovation. And Daniel, this shy boy from Manila, stood there with tears in his eyes, overwhelmed by the love pouring out toward him. But the story doesn't end there. After the performance went viral online, Daniel became an overnight sensation. People from around the world shared his video with captions like, "This made me cry," "The voice of an angel," and, "Remember this boy, he's going to change the world." In less than 24 hours, the clip had over 10 million views. Musicians, celebrities, and even international news outlets talked about him. But for Daniel, none of that mattered more than the moment he walked off stage and saw his parents crying with pride. His father hugged him tightly and said, "You did it, son. You made the world hear you." That night, Daniel's life changed forever. He received invitations to sing on international stages. People offered him scholarships, music training, and record deals. But Daniel stayed humble. When reporters asked him what his dream was, he smiled shyly and said, "I just want to make people feel something. I want to give hope." In the weeks that followed, Daniel's story inspired millions of kids around the world who felt small and unheard. He became a symbol of hope, proof that no dream is too big and no voice is too small. Even in interviews, he often said, "When you sing with your heart, people will always listen." But there was something else behind his voice that most people didn't know. When Daniel was 9 years old, his grandmother, the person who first introduced him to music, passed away. She used to sing him lullabies at night when the world felt too heavy. She was the one who told him, "One day, you'll sing for the world." On that audition stage, when Daniel closed his eyes, he wasn't just singing to impress judges. He was singing for her. Every note was a message of love. In one interview, Daniel said, "When I sing, I imagine she's sitting in the front row, smiling at me. That's why I don't feel afraid anymore." That connection, that emotion, is what made his performance so unforgettable. The world wasn't just listening to a song. It was feeling the heart of a boy who poured everything into it. Months later, Daniel performed the same song at a massive international event. The crowd was even bigger, the lights even brighter, but Daniel was calm. He walked onto that stage with confidence, holding the same microphone, wearing the same lucky sneakers. As he began to sing, the crowd fell silent once again. By the end of the performance, the standing ovation lasted for nearly 5 minutes. Some said it was one of the most emotional live performances they had ever witnessed. The judges who had once questioned his quiet voice now called him a global phenomenon. One of them said, "Daniel reminded us why music exists. It's not about fame, it's about feeling." His story became a beacon of hope for millions. Kids in villages and cities across the world started covering his song, inspired to chase their own dreams. Daniel's face appeared on posters, news covers, and trending hashtags. But through it all, he never forgot who he was, a boy from Manila with a dream and a song. One of the most powerful moments came a few months after his rise to fame. Daniel returned to his old neighborhood. The same narrow streets, the same tiny house, the same old radio by the window. His father's tricycle was still parked outside. But this time, the neighborhood gathered to welcome him home like a hero. Children ran up to him, asking for selfies, and parents told him how proud they were. That night, he stood in front of his house and sang the same song again. No stage lights, no cameras, just the people who loved him most. And once again, everyone cried. Daniel often says that his biggest dream is to build a music school for kids who can't afford lessons. He believes that every child deserves a chance to be heard. In one of his interviews, he said, "I was given a chance, and it changed my life. I want to give that chance to others." Every note of that song still echoes in people's hearts. It's not just the melody or the lyrics, it's the story of a young boy who dared to believe. A boy who turned his pain into power. A boy who made the world cry with one song. If you've ever doubted your dreams, Daniel's story is a reminder that the world is waiting to hear your voice. It doesn't matter where you come from, how small you feel, or how impossible it seems. One moment of courage can change everything. Before we end this story, imagine this: a shy boy standing under a single spotlight, singing with all his heart, and making the world stop and listen. That's the power of pure emotion. That's the power of never giving up. And that's the power of Daniel's song. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful true stories from around the world. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring more inspiring stories to light. Daniel's journey isn't just his own, it's a story for all of us. A reminder that no matter who we are, our voices matter. And sometimes, one song can change the world.